Today I'm telling the story of how my business Selling from the Heart was born, and I'm actually recording this almost 13 years to the day. And there was a clear day where Selling from the Heart came into existence, and I knew in that moment that I was here to teach heart-centered business owners how to sell in a way that feels in alignment with their values and has the right clients feeling really excited to say yes to working with them. Now, the one thing I thought I knew for sure when I left my corporate job was that I was never going to teach people to sell. And yet here I am. I've been doing it for 13 years. And all it needed was a twist to teach people how to sell from the heart instead of the traditional way based on closing and objection handling. So my journey into sales as a career and later as a business wasn't even planned or chosen. I feel like I fell into the career and later on I fell into the business. So at age 27, after many years of travel and living abroad, doing everything from making solar panels at a kibbutz to picking custard apples in Australia, the only job I could land with very little conventional work experience was in travel sales. So I fell into a sales role. And after a few years in travel sales, I moved into recruitment. So imagine the most cutthroat, target-driven environment in the city in London wearing a suit. That's exactly how it was. I'd been very successful in my travel sales career and also very successful in my recruitment career. I was earning six figures by this point. I was actually paying more in tax every year than my parents had earned combined. And that felt exciting, but the work itself felt pretty meaningless. It really felt like the entire purpose of my existence was to make money. And though I did love talking to people for a living, and I did really enjoy the process of sales when I did it my way, and I didn't use the psychological techniques that we were being taught when we were sent off for sales training, in the end, I just had this desperate desire to find something that felt more meaningful. And I took a sabbatical from which I never returned, and I went off seeking deeper purpose. I did all sorts of things. I worked as a project leader on youth projects in Ghana, Africa. I trained as a yoga teacher in India. I studied acupuncture in Sri Lanka. I returned to the UK and I trained as a nutritional therapist, a hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, and life coach. If it was designed to help others, I tried it. But somehow nothing clicked. I would sit in front of my coaching clients, or I would be in front of my sold out yoga class, feeling on some level deflated. This is supposed to be the dream, and it just doesn't feel right. And all this while, I was surrounded by people who I had done all of that training with, who were struggling to get clients. And people would say to me, Catherine, how is it that you always seem to have no problem getting clients when the rest of us are struggling? Well, I was getting clients, but it didn't feel the way I'd thought it would. And the only clients that I really loved working with, as it turned out, were the ones who had their own small business. Now, around this time, I started wondering why I couldn't get a proper business off the ground. And I decided that I must have money blocks. So I signed up to work with a money coach. And after a very thorough assessment, she diagnosed me as having nothing wrong with my relationship with money, just that I hadn't yet figured out how I was going to make any. And she challenged me to go to the coaching school where I had trained. And it was one of those terrifying milestone moments in my business. I remember sitting over coffee with the founder of the school. And you know how we so often don't take action because we are afraid of failure? Well, I was so afraid that he would say no that I almost didn't ask him. And somehow, from somewhere deep inside me, I found the courage and I asked the question. And to my amazement, he just said yes. And on the 25th of November, 2011, I travelled into London to deliver a one-day workshop for coaches called Sales Success for Coaches. There were 13 coaches who had each paid £47 to be there. After room hire, I split the profits with the owner of the coaching school, so I came away with less than £200 for my day's work, but I had found my thing. And that was the day that I realised that my sales skills and knowledge were not just things that everybody knew. On the way in that morning, I had felt mortified because I thought that what I'd prepared was just so obvious that they'd feel they'd wasted their day. Instead, I had a complete revelation. The coaches who attended learned how to have genuinely heart-centered sales conversations that fit with the way they wanted to do business, and they left looking forward to inviting people to sales conversations and transforming more people's lives. And for me, that was the day I realized, this is it. This is what I'm here to do, to teach heart-centered sales to people who are here to make a difference to others, and I'm going to call it selling from the heart. And 13 years later, here I am, still teaching heart-centered business owners how to get clients and grow their businesses, always from the heart. The 13-year piece amazes me because prior to this business, I had never done anything else for work where I didn't want to leave and do something else within the first 3 months, even if I ended up staying for several years. As soon as I'd learned the job, I would become bored and disillusioned and restless. And what's wonderful about the work I do is it's kept me intellectually challenged. Even after all these years, I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly being challenged to be a better mentor to my clients. And the most wonderful thing of all, I make a difference to others every single day of the week, which is all I ever wanted. Even if it's as small as answering a question in a Facebook group. But here's the thing. After running that one-day event, I still didn't feel confident enough to make a business out of this. Imposter syndrome kicked in, and it kicked in hard. Who did I think I was to teach sales? Did I really know enough to be able to help people make sales? Wasn't it just a fluke that I could do it myself rather than something I could actually teach? Now, it was late November, and I spent that Christmas all alone, hidden away. I read books and I bought courses on how to sell. The first thing I learned was I knew a whole lot more than I was giving myself credit for. I could have written some of those books myself. And the other thing I learned was that there was a whole lot being taught about sales that I didn't want to do. And I was damn certain my heart-centered clients didn't want to do it either. And the third thing I learned was there were things that I had always done that I wasn't consciously aware of that could be taught. And it was this that led to me developing my own unique style of sales that I call heart-centered sales. I took the way that I had always done sales myself and I consciously created it into a structure that I could teach to others, and it has absolutely worked a dream. And for me, sales isn't about closing deals. It's not one-sided and self-serving. It's about healing your relationship with sales and with money and with yourself. It's about showing up for your clients in a way that feels good for you and feels good for them. I believe that every sale should be an act of service, and that every sales conversation should be a healing conversation that leaves your potential client feeling better about that interaction and about themselves, regardless of the decision they make. And it still blows my mind that this thing that I had been doing for all those years was something that I would end up teaching. I never could have imagined it. I've heard it said that we can't see the thing that is right at the end of our own nose, even though it's totally obvious to everybody else. And how true that was. All it took was for me to see that I'm not here to teach sales in the traditional sense, not the high pressure, manipulative stuff that used to give me a knot in my stomach when I was taught to do it. Instead, I realized that this was my business and I could choose to teach people how to sell in a way that feels authentic and aligned with their values. And the fact that I had trained in energy healing, acupuncture, coaching, hypnotherapy, nutritional therapy gave me a unique insight into my clients' businesses and the way that they would want to do sales and marketing in ways that congruent with how they want to work with their clients. So after all of those years searching for my thing, selling from the heart was born. And all these years later, I'm grateful for all of the experiences that led me here, even that time working in recruitment that felt so meaningless, because that's what has guided me to this point. And it makes absolute sense now why that was part of my journey, because I needed to experience learning those really uncomfortable, manipulative, old school sales techniques and have that feeling of the knot in my stomach and how it felt for me when I thought I had to do those things, because that's what led me to design this much more heart-centered approach to sales that I actually believe is more effective than those traditional sales approaches. All we can do is follow the breadcrumbs. It's only when we look back that we can see that it all makes sense. So how about you? Was there a time when you were looking for answers or purpose or meaning and you couldn't find it, but later you looked back and the whole journey made sense, even the hardest parts? Or maybe you feel like you are following those breadcrumbs right now and you're finding it hard to keep the faith that those breadcrumbs will eventually lead you to what you're looking for. Do let me know in the comments, and if you've enjoyed this video, do subscribe to learn more from me about heart-centered sales and growing a business in alignment with your values. If you'd like to get started learning how to sell from me, you can do that with my 7 Steps to Yes. It's a free training where I teach you step by step how to guide your potential client through a totally supportive sales conversation that will lead them to a yes to working with you if it's truly right for them. It's a 20-minute video series, and you can sign up for that at katherinewatkin.com/7 steps, and I'll also pop a link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please like, comment, or subscribe. Thank you. Bye-bye.